This week I'm in northern Arizona, sort of as a family vacation kind of getaway. If you think of Arizona as dry desert wasteland, that's true of Phoenix, but northern Arizona can be beautiful. And this is scenery I don't get all that often, so because I don't have any work projects this week, I thought it would be fun to film an anamorphic vlog on the GH5. The setup that I'm using is the Mikey 35mm f1.4. That's a micro four thirds lens. Combining that with the SLR MAGIC 2x ANAMORPHOT adapter. Put on the GH5, filming in 6K anamorphic mode, shooting everything Vlog L for hopefully what could be some of the most cinematic images possible on a GH5. There's so much you can do for relatively little money compared to 10, 20 years ago when this was all just fantasy. We could only dream of things like 4K and high dynamic range and shallow depth of field. And I'm always impressed by what these cameras are able to deliver, even at the extreme low end of the spectrum. And don't get me wrong, this setup is by no means perfect. Focusing with this anamorphic lens can be a challenge. If you're too close to the camera, unless you have diopters, you're gonna have a hard time focusing and it's just not gonna get sharp enough. You've also got two lenses to deal with focusing, the anamorphic and the taking lens. So you're constantly going back and forth between focusing one lens and then focusing the other. And it slows you down and it's not ideal. You've also got the GH5, which doesn't have as much dynamic range as something like my Ursa Mini Pro, which would do a lot better, but that is a lot bigger, heavier, and more expensive. So something like this does work, and I kind of look at the challenges like that, challenges that are meant to be overcome, and sometimes can push you in interesting directions and have you come up with solutions that you might not have thought of otherwise. I guess the most important thing to remember is just to have fun with your gear. We can often get caught up in work and projects or the technical limitations of not having the latest and greatest or most expensive cameras. There's so much you can do, even if it's not a GH5. Maybe it's a camera you already have or some old lenses that are just sitting in a closet. There are so many opportunities when you just push yourself past those initial challenges and focus on being creative. If absolute image quality is the most important thing to you, I wouldn't recommend a setup like this. There's just too many limitations and setbacks, and it's not something I would feel comfortable using on paid work, but it is something I like using for fun and more personal creative projects.